Check.
Good morning, everyone. We'll get started. If you wouldn't mind taking your seat. All right, we're ready to get going here. If everyone can take a seat, we'll get started. Try to get everyone a chance to ask their questions at the end of the presentation and still get everyone out of here at a decent time. A couple of things, I'll probably repeat these at some point in the presentation. There will be a Q&A at the end of the presentation, but the one ground rule we have, well, two ground rules we have. If you could keep your questions fairly brief, maybe about 30 seconds or so. We've had some that have been somewhat Shakespearean at length, and it does eat up quite a bit of time. So if you can keep your questions somewhat brief, that way we can get to as many questions as possible, as well as if you have a question, please wait for us. We'll get to you with a microphone. We are recording this session. It is being streamed through the magic of the internet right now, and so the sound system is tied in to the recording. So if you're not speaking into a microphone, they're not gonna pick you up at all. So when it comes time for questions and answers, please wait for us to get a microphone to you. All right. Well, thank you all for coming today. Why are we here? Well, certainly we continue to ride the wave of the Horizon Plan success, as is evident by the fact that we're in this building right now. It's been a great many years of membership utilization. We continue to reduce our debt. However, just in the past 9 or 10 years, while the facilities are beautiful and well maintained, how our members use them, the level in which they use them has overtaxed some facilities. And again, the use has evolved over the past 9 or 10 years that we've been in the Horizon facilities. So we want to do what we can as we continue to repair and address our infrastructure needs. If there's an enhancement or improvement opportunity, oftentimes these things overlap, and we want to do both at the same time if that's the best and most efficient way of doing it. So with this, we've partnered with the McMahon Group. McMahon Group is the leading private club consulting firm and master planning firm. And we originally, as we looked at Ocean Winds master plan, we looked at a pool renovation because of some setback and baseline issues, which you'll hear a lot about today. We decided, well, before we engage in these two key projects, do we need to bring in a professional to help us be sure that we're addressing everything long term? And that's how we partnered with McMahon Group, particularly Frank Vane, who you'll meet here in just a second. And we've put together a master plan, conceptual master plan that we're presenting to you today. Obviously, we want to get member input on this. That is a key piece. We want to be sure we're doing the right things the right way. Today, we're going to present the plan to you, let you see what we've done thus far, and then give you an opportunity through a survey that's going to come out, I would guess, within the next week or two, to give you an opportunity to tell us what you think about certain aspects of the survey, higher priorities, lower priorities, all that sort of thing. So we certainly want to get your feedback, and then we'll take that and move forward with the process. So why now? We always want to continue to maintain the value of membership. We want to provide quality amenities for current and future members. So a lot of the changes, a lot of the proposed changes that you'll see today deal with not only those that are using the facilities today, but those that are looking to come here tomorrow. And that's very important as we make each enhancement to keep both of these groups in mind. I touched base already on kind of coupling replacement and repair with future enhancements. But there's three primary areas that are going to be impacted from the conceptual plan that you'll see today. The Beach Club Pool Complex, Ocean Winds Golf Course, and various changes in the Island House. That's what you'll see this morning. So we'll go over the planning program. We'll talk about the strategic improvements. We'll talk about the finances associated with the plan and how we think that that's going to work and some options there. And then we'll discuss in more detail the next steps, what's going to happen next with this plan with regards to, again, the survey, packet, the final proposal, a vote by the membership, all that sort of thing. And then we'll allocate quite a bit of time for Q&A at the end. Just want to take a moment to thank the planning committee, as you can see here, Bob Nairhood, Doris Reinhardt, Don Romano, Larry Buckman, Warren McCulloch, Jeff Ward, Fred Finke, our CFO, Patty, and I had the pleasure of serving on the committee as well. So thanks to those individuals. It's been a lot of hard work over the past several months and some lighthearted debate, as you can imagine, and on this sort of thing. So they've all been important to the planning process. McMahon Group, as I mentioned, the McMahon Group is a private club consulting firm, master planning firm, a lot of strategic planning. They are the #1 consulting firm in the private club industry. Founded in 1983 with over 2,000 engagements at private clubs of all sizes. Many of their clients, you can see there on the right-hand side, that are wonderful club communities. I have enjoyed my time working with Frank Vane of the McMahon Group. I think we all have. They've been an excellent partner. They've really guided us and given us the perspective that we need, the guidance that we need. And I hope and I am confident that you will enjoy the presentation today. And again, feel free after the presentation, if you want to chat for a few minutes with Mr. Vane, feel free to do that. But without further ado, please welcome from the McMahon Group, Mr. Frank Vane.
Thank you, and thank you, Caleb, for your kind words there. 52 and breezy seems like a good day for a meeting, so we'll get on with it. As you say, a big part of what we're known at, working with clubs over a long period of time, we've really developed a process to look to enroll all members in the planning program. As we think about capital improvements and making improvements at a club, it's it's a time of excitement. You can make changes, make enhancements. I think we all like our club to succeed, and probably all have at an individual level things that we would like to see different or better at our club. It's also a time of trepidation, right? There's some level of change that takes place. It costs money and those sorts of things. So as we've tried to work through that, is to say, well, let's all get into that and think about that and have an intelligent and informed conversation around those issues. And so as your board formed in 2017, sort of put together the facilities planning committee to look out there and see what the next set of large-scale improvements may be for the club. And then, of course, went through, as you do, and all those things, sort through kind of what's necessary and what's nice to do, and look at various iterations and ideas and how much things cost and all of those sorts of things. So they've dug into that pretty good, and as you see, really, you think about your three main areas of activity here, the golf course, the pool, and the clubhouse, kind of really coming up with a comprehensive set of recommendations in each of those areas. And at the back end of that, what we've received from the board is their endorsement of the plan, as well as the ability to engage in this process. So, as you can see on the screen here, we're really now at stage 2 of sort of a 5-stage process, if you look at it that way, that having developed the conceptual plan, now we've brought it out to the membership in these on-site meetings, on the web. Everything that you see here today is going to be pushed out to every member in every category. There's going to get an electronic version of this that you can take a look at it. And so this is a kickoff. This is not the end of the process. This is not the proposal yet. We think it's a good plan. We think it has the good basis to be an effective proposal, but ultimately that will be determined through your involvement and the feedback that we get. So you see right in the middle of the screen there, beginning next week, as Caleb says, all this information will be pushed out, and that's accompanied by a survey questionnaire. And the survey questionnaire is very direct about the plan. Do you like it? The concepts, the goals, the things that it would provide, the financial plan, the priorities within the plan. All of that is there for your review to understand and your ability to critique that. So, and we found that that's a great way for a community to come together, evaluate where it stands, make a collective determination about where we go to the future, and the kind of things to be done. So on the back end of that, then our committee and board is able to sit down with data from a large cross-section of membership and make a good decision about this, and shape the plan in the most effective way possible to move it forward and appeal to a significant majority of the membership, and then it can move on to vote. So this process of planning, sort of communicating and testing, and then responding and finalizing has kind of really served us well, and I think serves the club well, as we all come together from a different perspective of what's important to us, what we use, and all sorts of different backgrounds to sort of sort through that and get to a place where our club is doing the right things and is in a great position for the future. Seabrook's, has made a lot of improvements and has done some great things, and I think really recognizes in a changing club world today how the combination of all the things you do is really critical to your success. From whether it's the equestrian all the way down to the beach and sort of things in between. We really see in today's club world, it's about a focus on quality and consistency across that landscape of activities that we offer, that where the clubs are succeeding. It's not just about a golf course or a dining room or those sorts of things. It's all that coming together in a way to impact our membership and certainly attract new members here, and certainly high quality facilities are a great way to do that, right? That's how we drive programs and really provide the entertainment and the activities that our members are seeking here. So I think the mission here is quite solid, quite well positioned for the world of clubs today. Actually, we see great shift out there. I think, imagine many of you belonging to clubs and probably participating in golf and other activities are aware of really what we would describe accurately, I believe, as a monumental level of change going on in the club world. How we live and dress and what activities we're interested in, all of those sorts of things that the social and recreational organizations that clubs are impacted by that. And so golf, maybe not as many golfers as there once were, remains a core activity and something that's essentially very important to our future. As I say, you're kind of a foundational activity. Those who enjoy the game appreciate clubs. They pay the most in dues. They tend to spend the most money on an annual basis. So we want to remain strong and well positioned in that regard. And you look at kind of casual, kind of indoor and outdoor dining and social venues. Again, we're in just a little more relaxed world these days. And thinking about facilities to bring our members together and to sit and have conversations, enjoy each other's company. And of all those, one of the things we really see is kind of a lively and active pool complex for really its importance for attracting new members and younger members and families. And so it's really, again, all across the landscape of those activities that those come together to create value and attract folks into the club. So we'll look at these conceptual plans and go through the three main areas. We'll talk first about the pool. You'll see a consistent theme, I think, in each of the areas that we're talking about between a core need. We talked about needs and wants earlier. A core infrastructure issue, or in the case of the pool, a regulatory issue that tends to spur us on. And then as you're doing that and kind of get, whether it's your hands forced or you're thinking about addressing that, it's a good time to sort through, is that the environment that will serve us the best for the long term? So, your pool is really the number one used amenity here. Over 40 years old, so pools are kind of in that range of end of useful life. The kids pool was went through some refurbishment in the Horizon plan, but the big issue with the pool is that the window of opportunity is closing to make significant changes to those. If you have a pool, wherever it is, you'll sort of always be able to maintain that, but to change its size or shape, by around 2024, it's anticipated that setback lines and baseline for the pool will move in a way that, for example, the main pool would not be able to be replaced, not be able to change in size or anything in that location. So that's a real significant driver there, is, again, this critical amenity for place to socialize and gather, certainly something important to children and families as they look at coming into the club. And so, you really want to get locked in on your footprint in that area as soon as possible. As I mentioned, you just see really across the clubs around the country are spending a lot of money in these complexes and finding that it's really one of the great investments that they can make for its place of gathering, for the fun that it offers, and certainly what we say here, the gateway amenity. It's really something that as new folks look at a club, it's one of those things that are really attractive to them. Use by members, about half of almost half of the pool use is by members. I think sometimes that number surprises people, thinking it's more of a guest amenity. It actually is both are using it quite actively. So the vision there is to modernize and upgrade the pool complex, and so it's both enlargement of the key features, more water. A larger main pool is a big piece of this, and like most pool complexes today, it's about what's around the pool. The food and beverage, the places to sit, the shade areas, the sunny areas, and all of that, and that's addressed in the pool plan here with kind of what we call these different neighborhoods. And so you might have a children's activity zone, you have an adult bar, you have a sun deck that's kind of more adult in its configuration, and so it's really look at that whole area there and see different ways to use it. It would include a permanent bar and cooking right on the pool deck. Refurbished restrooms, the existing restrooms refurbished in this. Over certainly by the kids pool, a little higher seawall there to protect infiltration of sand and storm surge in some of your winter storms that come through. So again, it combines some infrastructure and some upgrade that way, along with enhancements, if you will. And just say that's all done to be able to fit within what you're currently authorized to do as your existing pool area. It does not encroach on the beach and goes out of those bounds, but there's an anticipation that the setback line comes right back through the main pool, and so it will not be able to be rebuilt in that location. Your pool is fairly typical of kind of the older style pool. It's a box of water with a lot of concrete around it, and for many years we thought that was the standard of a pool, and that worked pretty well. But a lot of things today, people want more, and they want to be sort of entertained in those environments, and that kind of leads you to the new kind of concept of what a pool is. So again, we'll walk through this. This will be in your packets and something you can get more familiar with, but obviously you see the beach down at the bottom of the page and the pool complex right here, Beach House, Pelican's Nest over here, and Seabrook Island Road here at the top of the page. So some of the landmarks that change, this is the kids pool. It remains in its current location, and As we said, that was in the Horizon Plan, that was refurbished. The Tao building is here, the restrooms are over here, and those are refurbished and that sort of thing in the program. Certainly the restrooms are as part of it. Maintains the idea of two pools, but this is a new pool here, more of again the style that you see today, from a sun shelf where you might actually be on a lounger right in the water, stairway coming down here, or handicap ramp coming down into the pool in this location. Nice, free-form shape of water there. Kind of sunshades here that kind of project out into the pool. A covered trellis area back here. We want to get away and get cool and out of the sun in a couple areas that allow you to do that. And then in the middle of the plan, you see this roof structure. Here's a new pool bar. Cooking will be the back like you do today, but a bar under cover in that location. Some seating out around that, and then around the kids' pool, some water jets as a fun little play feature. A kids' activity zone here for games and their ability for them to run around and play outside the water, and then decking all along here with lounges and everything there. We talk about that protection against storm surge up in here with the wall that's part of that. So a lot of different features, a lot of ways to enjoy this, as we say, kind of different neighborhoods of active children's zone to kind of a place to chill out as adults, and a place to get something to eat and drink, all as part of that. And as we say, in the future, it looks like that setback's going to come back in through here, which would really prevent from the ability to create a pool of the size and type that we believe is necessary and appropriate for the long term here. So as I say, clubs have gotten a lot of mileage, a lot of success out of these. Really can create. This is a view here that suggests again, a conceptual image of what the pool bar may be like, kind of tongues out in between the two pools here, looking over towards the new main pool in this configuration. Looking down from a bird's eye view over the new pool bar towards the new main pool in this location, with the different lounges and sunshades and those aspects of it. I'm going to stop there. You also pick up a little bit, and again, to be defined in all these concepts, but the notion of this sort of children's play area and activity zone right there. And then finally, sort of looking back over the new main pool to the other side, shade trellis. So we get a lot of requests for shade around pools today. We do have folks who like to be out in the sun and on these sun shelves, and that's certainly a good place to do that. You pick up a little sense of the handicap access coming down into the pool here. And again, sort of a variety of places that you can, a variety of ways that you can use this, certainly parties and entertainment and things like that you may have here also. So this is really the standard of the day, kind of really reflects what's happening in these areas, and can really serve you well. And as you say, really now's the time with the age and the sort of regulations that impact that this is the window of opportunity to get this done within the next couple of years, and service for the next 30 or 40 years going forward. So as we come over to the golf course, I want to say here, implementation of the Ocean Winds Golf Course Master Plan, and just to emphasize, we're going to show some images in a minute of some select holes. But it is the implementation of the entire golf course master plan that was approved by the board back in 2015, developed by Reese Jones, and to move ahead with the entire plan. So while we show some images, obviously we don't want to page through 18 holes of changes to the course, but you'll see some that we think set the tone and show you what is recommended there on the course. But again, we have, I want to start with sort of the implementation, kind of in that why now sort of category. As you say, certainly golf has changed, but golf is not going away, and remains vital to the success of most of our coastal communities. You've got a lot of investment and a lot of activity there, a membership category that pays the highest rates, and all of those sorts of things. And and in any changing industry, we believe it's important to push back against that competition, to be strong, to be effective, to be of high quality. Calls out for our, if it's a battle for market share, you want to get your share, right? And we do that by being of top quality, and it's important to invest in that. It's also important as we talk about whatever golf rounds have done nationally and everything else, they're not in decline here. Your golf membership is growing. Your number of golf rounds is at or greater than what it's been in the recent past. Those who play most frequently are playing more frequently. So, your trends are really pretty good in the game. And given your demographics, we expect that to continue for quite a while now. So, as I say, why now? It's really, again, this intersection of age and opportunity. And so the 30-year-old irrigation system, generally in the industry, you look at an irrigation system, has about a 25-year useful life. And so we're right at around 30 years there. This is addressed in your reserve study. And within the next 2 years, that will be replaced at $1.7 million out of your reserve funding. So why would you do that? Again, we're a good 5 years beyond standard of useful life, so you've gotten full depreciation out of that amenity. But as anything aged, more breakdowns and difficulty getting parts, eventually won't be able to make those replacements. All new systems, and you can imagine how advanced the technology has become in these areas over the course of when this system was put in the ground. So it's time to do that, and so again, important if you're going to do that. There's a level of disruption. Golf course would be under construction for a period of time as you make those changes. The other is as you put that in the ground, if you decide at some point later on to make some design changes to the course, you would disrupt the work you already just completed and that you invested in. So it's really the time that if we're going to be under construction, we're going to be spending money there to really move ahead with the master plan, avoiding that second disruption and putting all these important and costly heads and lines and all those sorts of things in the right place where the course is going to be and what it's going to look like for a long period of time. Golf courses are funny. A lot of times we look at them and say, geez, they seem green, seem aesthetically pretty good. Obviously, it's a very complex agronomic environment. And again, ground shifts and levels over time. Tees become unlevel. They get smaller. Bunkers, wear out. Drainage issues become problematic as pipes, get clogged up and all those kinds of things. And the development effects are, around our golf course is part of that. The other thing we see in golf today is a lot of change in playing sort of preferences, what would be called playability in the game. They're much sharper in terms of design today, where you can have a course that plays as challenging as you want it when you want it to do that, and also one that's more friendly for higher handicap players or players who just want to have a little more fun when they're playing the game. And so all those factors between sort of the standards of play today, the aging infrastructure, and protecting that investment really demand this idea of a comprehensive and coordinated approach to the future of the course. So this has been a plan. The club retained Rees Jones, I think widely recognized as the premier golf course architect in the United States, has worked at many of the great clubs around the world and certainly in the country here. It's gone through a lot of reviews and iterations, and really the golf community certainly and others are asking, really, are we ready yet, and is the plan ready to move forward, or why can't we move the plan forward? So, as I mentioned, 4 holes are shown in pictures here. It's something to go through the entire course. I know many of you love the 16th fairway, but apparently that's going to change under this plan. So, the other sort of ideas here are just, again, that these are good representations of what you can do in golf design today. Here is a large bunker that one you have to maintain and prep that every day. It's also extremely penal getting your golf ball to that hole, right? You're either flying that thing over there and hitting a nice high soft shot, or you're going to be hitting a bunker shot here, and so in today, sort of the thoughtful design is, well, let's have the most efficient and effective and right size bunker that we can to really defend the hole where we want defense, but also we can get there a little easier. We can get around that and access that with elimination of that part of the bunkering, some nice grass there, and have some fun with chipping and other ways to get to the hole as part of it. And that's really the recurring theme of this. You can change fairway lines and again, areas to really get up and have access to the hole. That's number 2. Here's the number 5. Again, another example of that, of where we can end up with a nice bunker right here. Again, with that pin's right there, you really got to pull off a shot. But you don't, down here, all we're doing is frustrating players when their ball is down here in a long sand shot, away from the hole. Another bunker here that's not doing a lot for us, and we can really kind of use that in a much more strategic way and a much more playability factors around the hole. Reese decided to put an X right here, right? You don't want your golf ball in that location. And you can sort of see here, right, where kind of the fairway contours and everything sort of change here. Again, you want those sprinkler heads and those pipes and everything there to be in the right position as you make that. You wouldn't want to come back 5 years from now after having put this irrigation system in and say, well, we're going to do something like this. And yet these are really the things that are important to do on a golf course today. So it really modernizes the playability of a 40-year-old golf course. Updates the infrastructure. Finally, 16, the par 5 here with, again, those same kind of changes. Big, massive bunkers way away from the hole. You can, put something there so that layup is challenged by that, and you've got to get your ball in the right position, but have a little more flexibility with that, have a little more, fairway to work with and those sorts of things, and really have the bunkers, where you need them. So, again, a good example, combination of infrastructure need, opportunity while we're doing that, enhance that, and really have something that, again, is another 40-year golf course for you. And then we come into the Pelican's house, Island House and Pelican's Nest. And, again, just in that 10-year period of time, you've certainly seen changes in utilization in some areas of the facility. The Bohickett's lounge really kind of overtaxed and heavily used. Palmetto room, not so much. So a lot of congestion in one area, a lot of unused space in another. And really the thought there is to, you look at that floor plan, and even over that 10 years, first of all, just from an interior design perspective, 5 to 7 years, pretty standard in the industry, maybe as much as 10 for just decor and look and feel, kind of have those changes. And then, you look at kind of layout as goes with it. The vision for that whole space really is to have all those work together much more effectively. Today, they're a little bit like we used to design a little more in these facilities, a room here, a room there, and kind of a segmentation around that. What we really want to do is promote flow between that whole second floor, and each of those areas, they are distinct. When I'm in Bohickett's, I know I'm in a bar. In a Palmetto room, something a little quieter, and also in this plan, thinking about the DeVoe room as a way that to sort of bring that into the member dining for the quietest dining, if you will. So there's a way for it all to work together and flow. There's also a way for each group to kind of find an atmosphere that's appealing to them on that particular day as to what they're maybe looking for. So we want, of course, a great bar with dining and conversation spaces at the core of that. Outdoor dining is the #1 dining style that folks want in the club setting. And we have those periodic needs for a little upscale, quieter dining, all as part of it. So the vision for the plan is to go through and relieve that congestion, distribute the flow of activity through the rooms a little more effectively, and put in, again, new furnishings and fixtures to sort of roll out over the next 9 or 10 years as you do that. Obviously, it's a new clubhouse here. We're showing here is the footprint of the building really doesn't change significantly at all. Little coloration back in here is back in this corner is a storage addition out by the service area. Again, Caleb mentioned higher frequency of use and all those sorts of things. So there's just a little back of the house element with that to do. And then On the second level, you'll notice a new deck area coming off of the Bo Hickett's lounge. This was actually planned in the original construction. Eventually, it was valued engineered out. We think it's time to put back in. That might have been a little more option. What's that?
It was not value engineered out. It was taken out because of concern how much it would be used, because that area won't get the ocean breeze, and we were very concerned it would be very buggy and people wouldn't use it.
Great, good point.
We're
Good.
happy to save the money.
Right.
Value engineer it out.
Good. Hopefully you heard that. The gentleman's opinion, it was maybe, not the, it were other factors other than value engineering that made it desirable or not attractive to folks. Obviously, you can do things with air circulation and fans and all those things that you do today to enhance that, to be able to make that work. So the idea is to have a revitalized Bo Hickett's, really a better, more seating, more pub-like atmosphere, and that popping out to an outside area is certainly a part of that. Refurbish the Palmetto room to have a more casual look and feel, low country decor of the area there. So again, it wouldn't feel so much in isolation and so much that I'm getting out of all the energy and all the activity going over there. And then looking at the DeVoe room as what we've called here kind of generally as a wine room notion, that could be your most quiet dining. Formal's too strong of a word, but you get the idea there, an upscale dining option. But it could also be something that could be used for your wine program, wine lockers, things like that in that space. So we think in that configuration, then all these rooms would work together a little more effectively. So you see the stairway coming up in your circulation corridor here, Palmetto room down at the bottom of the page, Bo Hickett's here, Seaview Terrace here, and the current DeVoe room over on this side. So as we walk through that is really the notion as we come up to the upper level, go into Bo Hickett's. The idea is to the bar, as you recall, is kind of a more of a linear bar facing the wall. Here is the idea to have this come out in more of a peninsula shape, essentially doubling about the capacity and bar tops sitting at the bar. Again, these are just conceptual layouts. It's not a floor specification, but the idea of some high top tables, a bar rail, to again promote some standing up and interaction and moving around in this space, and have all this really work as the most casual, pubby-like atmosphere that you would have, a place to get a drink before going into a meal or staying right here and getting a bite to eat. And then this is the exterior window wall today, and this is the idea of putting a deck out in this location. Part of that could be undercover as the roof line extends above. Part of it could be open with fire pits or seating areas there in the uncovered area as part of it. So view to the outside does not get the sea breeze. Sea breeze dining is fun on some days and not so fun on others. We think it's, and it reflects the more casual setting that you have here. We talked about coming over in this area. This is the end of Bo Hickett's today, coming over into the living room and out to the Seaview Terrace. We think it's valuable square footage that's sort of underutilized today. Maybe opening up these doorways here, making this a more operable door to come out to Seaview, start to get some more value and some more utilization out of this square footage than you have today. So that would give you a more active seaside terrace here as part of it. And I'd say Palmetto, the footprint does not change of that space. A little different decor and more casual setting and things like that in there. And the whole idea is that all of these spaces would be attractive and, as I say, work a little more in harmony, a little more complementary, and maybe distribute the activity more effectively through that space versus kind of a formal room that can sit quiet while we're over capacity in this location. And as I say, the third aspect of that is to think about really bringing the DeVoe room away from its predominantly kind of a private meeting space today. As we say, labeled the wine room here. It could sort of replace that quietest level of dining at times when we want that as a small 40 or 50 seat upscale dining room. Could install wine cabinets in there and have private member lockers there for supporting your wine program or having wine tastings and those kinds of things in that room. So this whole second level under this scenario then begins to work, for the members that way. I'm going to go back for a second. Just here's your parking up here. We're going to talk in a moment about a ground floor entry coming in over for the parking down on the on grade here, and that's where that connects up with your parking and comes across. And we'll look at that a little more closely in a moment. But just to give you a point of orientation where you'll see that come through the building and be able to access the elevator here and provide handicap access all the way through the building that way. So, as I say, it's a little bit today of separation and limited flow as to, from the, say, the living room out to the sea view terrace, or, a more formal setting in the Palmetto room, the doors going back into Bohicket's. I think as you look around today, a little more of the style of hospitality design, as I say, is flowing from space to space. You can create different atmospheres there with some level of change in decor, but not so much shut it off from area to area. Say bar design has kind of changed from, this linear configuration where you're sitting and looking at the wall. Kind of conflict and congestion between low-seated tables here and kind of folks, gathered around the bar. And we think if, again, this is just a conceptual view, final details to be determined, but the notion that the bar protrudes out this way, has more seating around it, has, whether it's rails or high-top tables, to promote standing up and gathering in this space, and for the ability of that to pop out outside, for all that to kind of work together as this sort of casual pubby setting that you would have after a game of golf or that sort of thing, to use it that way, or come out for happy hour and enjoy gathering and activity in this space. There's a view of how that might look from the golf course side. Again, the recommendation is to bring that out with extending of the roof line. Does allow you to put in ceiling fans and lighting and those sorts of things to move air and make it a nice setting and for bugs and all those aspects of it. As we come back in, as I say, Palmetto remains in the same footprint, just new decor through that space, and DeVoe really kind of taking on this more wine theme. And get more utilization out of that space over here, so these start to work to sort of your quietest setting to Palmetto, more active, and hopefully with that look and feel, a great room overlooking the ocean will get more activity than it does today. By opening up that doorway between the living room and the Seaview Terrace, we hope to promote greater flow and greater utilization in that area. So we do have that seaside dining, and then coming back into the building. Again, these are just example photos. This is actually the beach club down at Sawgrass in Ponte Vedra. You just see, a more casual tabletop. So these aren't, again, specifications, but relaxed, beachy island house feel, if you will, to all that, taking advantage of the water views. And something that we think, sort of 10 years on, is a little more reflective of kind of what we're seeing out there today in designs with all of that. So as we come in to, as I say, rather, almost one back of the house aspect of that, certainly your reserve budget takes care of things of interiors and such down here. Storage is a challenge in many clubs, and this is a nice day in the storeroom, well organized. May not always look like this, and so there's just a matter of being sort of a little bit overtaxed in that area, and we think we can just pick up a little additional storage in this area, have no visible impact in this work zone, working side of the house for the great architecture of the clubhouse, but provide some relief to the staff. And really thinking about, there's some doorways back in here. We can get this work area to function more into the kitchen by removing a wall there, some separation, and this is really a work stair Today it's open here and tends to, members kind of walk up there when, just as with the handicap access, we have members mingling with work areas. We're trying to get a little separation of that. So just a little functional back of the house aspect of the plan, and some additional storage that goes along with that. But the bigger issue that we think on the lower levels that affect members will be this, the ability to get to the elevator in a safer and more effective way than is available to us today. What the approach today is an afterthought to be able to access that building. Again, this is coming in through the lower level to access that elevator car there that goes up to all 3 floors. So the technicality of handicap access is met through this, but that's being accessed by going through a work area. It's just not a great presentation. Kind of can be embarrassing, can be unsafe. Those aspects of that. We believe we can push right through this area here, put a retaining wall down here, and right on grade then come in and access that elevator from the other side. And so we think that's available to us. And so I pointed out earlier, kind of coming over from the parking lot here, or dropping off here, we can come down. The retaining wall would be to the side there where we just looked at. Part of that ends up covered. Somebody suggested yesterday you could put, and you certainly could, put some cover all the way along that. But the idea is to come in and then, you can punch through the wall here and then have a little bit of a lobby effect, if you will, access the elevator and go up. So a much cleaner, safer, and we think appropriate presentation of how those who need this access can get to it in a proper way. Over at Pelican's Nest, really, it's a continuing theme here, as you see, of getting more seats for more drinking. But it's really kind of a pretty straightforward approach. Obviously, there's not much better place to get a drink than looking at the ocean, and there's some congestion in that space today, and again, some challenge for staff to be able to get access to the drinks and everything else with that, and serve the members effectively. And we'll see a notion also of thinking about the check-in desk over there is a big part of it. But the bar today is popular. Every beachside bar certainly is, and the idea here is just to enlarge that bar top. That what we just looked at is pretty much a square. These 4 posts, whether you can pick them up, or sort of the entirety of the bar today. And the idea would be to protrude out on both sides of that, create something that's just more bar top for seating, and a better way to create staff workstations so that they can pick up and get out and get drinks to everybody out here. So congestion at Bo Hickett's, congestion here is a common theme, and we think this is a good and straightforward way to address that. Another aspect of that is, you have this sort of covered over here, cover over the entire walkway coming in, and often kind of a little bit of a almost temporary check-in desk brought up here as folks come in, or either going to the shop, going to Pelican's Nest, or to the pool. And the idea is you can formalize that a little bit more. Could even provide a walkway so that those going up to the shop, we can kind of close that off here with a gate, and really kind of know who's going where, and just have a little more control and effectiveness there. Your new Osprey Cafe is coming online here. It's going to be a nice, exciting improvement in that area as part of it. But the bar top is enlarged, as you see, sort of coming out again, and on the left side here, there's kind of some new rail and some new seating area as part of that over into here, as well as a counter piece of that for staff work areas. And we think that combination will be effective to make this all work better and give us more seats in one of your really most popular locations. Bless you. So that's the plan. There's a lot there. As I say, all of this will be sent out to you in the next week, 10 days. You have a chance to read all of that, and really in responding to the survey, it's kind of an open book test. Be able to look at those things. You'll have good information about these things. You're about to see the financial plan, so you have a good understanding of cost and all that, and then you'll be able to weigh in on the plan. So Caleb's going to take us through now the funding of the program, and then we'll conclude with some closing thoughts. So, thank you.
Thank you, Frank. All right, so you see the components there of the plan. The pool enhancements around 2.9 million, ocean winds 3.4, and then the Island House dining related versus the ground floor entrance. We have that broken up so you can see what those two items, what the cost estimates are. Then the Pelicans, that's for 320. The start dates, again, conceptual. Again, these are estimates. With the pool enhancements, we would, if approved, we want to move forward with that as quickly as possible. So the plan would be to actually begin that program September of this year and finish it up by the start of the season next year. And then you can see Ocean Winds and the Island House work would begin May of 2020. And then Ocean Winds would conclude that October, and then the Island House improvements would carry over to March of the following year. And of course, the Pelican's Nest changes, we would handle those. We would take care of those during the off-season, during those winter months in 2020. So the board certainly believes that there are great reasons for doing all of these projects. The cost is $10 million when you add in the whole package together. But again, just to touch base on some of the reasoning that Frank has already mentioned, the pool enhancement being a high priority project, that setback and baseline is going to move. I mean, there is no doubt about it. It's going to move, and it's going to move in 2024. It was going to move in 2017. I believe that McMaster kicked it a few years to give folks more time. And that was the catalyst of what got us thinking about the pool project. So if that setback and baseline were to move, and like Frank said, it's going to move through the middle of where the large pool is today. The pool restrictions are much greater than a home restriction that's seaward of that setback and baseline. But we would not be able to reshape, we would not be able to expand the pool at all. The footprint of the pool as it exists today would remain permanently going forward. There would be no way to do any kind of enhancement. So with that being said, the window of opportunity to do something about this amenity, which is the oldest amenity we have, is quickly closing. And so we do feel the need that we need to address that fairly quickly. Ocean Winds Master Plan. Again, we're going to be replacing that irrigation system in the next 1 to 2 years at a cost of around $1.7 million. So as Frank said, it's the most efficient way to do the work is if you're going to execute any part of the Ocean Winds Master Plan that we put together a few years ago, it is best to do it when you're replacing the irrigation system. Otherwise, you're going to have to undo a big chunk of your relatively new irrigation system if you do any of the Ocean Winds remodel after the new system is put in. So again, better to do that all at once. Island House Dining, again, trends in membership. Our membership has evolved. Their use has evolved. The industry continues to evolve, and it's important for the club and in its operation, the facilities to evolve with those trends that we see locally and across the nation. So our floor plan is a bit more traditional, and I think that, again, as member use has changed and shifted over the years, it's important for us to make those same changes and shifts with the physical plan. Island House ground floor entrance, this has been the bane of our existence for many years. It was an afterthought that we put in because handicap accessibility does meet code in this building, but handicap accessibility is not very convenient. If you're on the golf side of the building, it's about 3/4 of a mile zigzagging on that sidewalk to get up to the level of the entrance. So I think to really do that the right way and be done with it, I think is very important. And this certainly addresses that issue. And of course, the Pelican's Nest Bar, it's been too small from day one. That place is so busy. It's a wonderful spot, but it is too small of a workstation for our employees, and it's too small of a service area for our members and guests. It just needs to be bigger, shaped differently. We need some dedicated drop-off and pickup points. A lot of folks say, well, just put more bartenders back there that'll speed up service. No, it does not. It's just going to slow down service. Now you have 3 people back there that want to kill each other. Because they're on top of each other. So you really can't just keep putting employees in a small workspace. It begins to actually have a detrimental effect. So growing this space, more staff, more service area, capture the views much better. And there is real estate. A question that we've received is if you grow the bar, is it going to encroach on your table space? Is it going to reduce the number of tables? No, it will not. when you really walk around that area and look, there is additional space. You can grow the bar into where the covered dining area where the tables are, and it's not going to cause us to reduce any of the seated dining area that's around the bar. It should be fine. So there's a few options I want to review with you. Option 1 is the board recommendation. It's the whole package of $10 million. What we would do with this, we would extend the current Horizon loan to 2030. We would refinance the remaining amount on that loan plus the new loan at an amount not to exceed 6.5%. Current rates are around 5.5%, so that's why we put the not to exceed 6.5, because between now and whenever we actually pull the trigger on the loan, who knows where interest rates are going to go, but hopefully it will not go higher than 6.5. So 6.5 is what our models are based on. The projected member payment impact on a monthly basis would be $49 for full members, $33 for social, and $22 for community. This would enable us to keep the loan at around 10 years. Is that right, Patty, based upon the model? By having these increases. Advantages to option 1, we would be able to complete all the projects. We'd reduce overall interest expense to the club because the term of the loan is limited to 10 years, and it does ease the burden of cash flow during poor economic times. Disadvantages is obviously there is an additional fee to the members up front. So again, option 1 is the recommendation of the board. Let's look at another one, option 2, where we still do all the projects, but we extend the loan beyond 10 years to include all the cost, and there's no immediate cost impact to the members. It's $0 for everyone. How long would the loan be extended? We're not sure. We're running those models right now. We'll have more information on that. But again, to extend the loan beyond 10 years, we'd be able to get all the projects done, and there would be no impact to current member fees. So some pretty obvious advantages up front with option 2. The disadvantage, however, does increase our period of debt. It is a greater cash flow burden to the club. Possible impacts to ability to fund future capital projects. What I mean by that is that if you have an extended debt, a club that should be evolving and redefining and maybe reinventing itself every 10 years in order to stay current and stay aggressive and to be a leader in the industry, you need a reinvention every 10 years. And if we extend the loan past that point, what happens is that when we need something else 10 years from now, because we will need something else 10 years from now, it's going to butt up against still having a significant balance left on this loan. So it could impact what those projects would be 10 years from now. And of course, a possible concern to prospective members. This was something that at one point when our debt was very high, our membership still grew. Real estate has been very strong the past few years, but nonetheless, it is a question that we were getting at the real estate office, and a question we would receive from new members is, what's the financial condition of the club? How much debt do you have? Those sorts of questions. So by growing that debt, it's just something we need to be cognizant of, is that for those that are looking at moving to Seabrook, buying property on Seabrook, joining the club, the financial condition and the level of debt is important to them. They've seen a lot of clubs out there that bite off too much and then they struggle. We're not in that category. We really thrive, but nonetheless, something to be aware of. Option 3 is we simply reduce the scope. We extend the loan, same as option 1. We extend the loan to 2030 at a rate of around 6.5%, $0 as far as the impact to the membership on all 3 of those categories there. Advantages are we were able to complete the high priority projects. There's no impact to current member fees. The term of loan, limited to 10 years, eases burden of cash flow during poor economic times. The disadvantages are the key dining trends are not addressed, and the Island House, though it is well maintained, will begin to show signs of datedness, both aesthetically and operationally. And just in the conversations that we've had the past couple of days, the Island House, the potential Island House changes have been very well received, and people are really excited about those. So we'd hate to kick those down the road or just not do them at all. But nonetheless, it is an option here. So member feedback. Again, I'm going to repeat some things that I think Frank has already mentioned. The project survey is going to provide members with an opportunity to select your preferred option. So you're going to have an opportunity in this electronic booklet with this survey to select your option, as well as prioritize the individual components within the project that you feel are more important. Obviously, the choice to do nothing is there, but this is something that the board does not support. We do feel as though this operation, any club, any operation should continuously be moving forward, reinventing itself, and so this is a key time and important for us to do this. The next step, so this is the third of 3 member focus group meetings. So over the next week or so, we'll be putting the finishing touches on the electronic booklet, which again, lots of images, more detail as far as the projects. It'll indicate a lot of things that we've talked about today. It'll have a survey in there as well. You click on that survey, and as Frank mentioned, it's pretty direct, pretty straightforward as far as identify the components you like, you don't like, what you support, what you don't support. Would you vote for this, would you not? We'll get that data back. We'll take a look at that. We'll put together the final plan, and then we'll go to a vote. We'll put together a referendum, and we'll go to a vote. And the timeline is roughly this. The booklet and survey will go out in late February. We'll look at that data in March, so we'll give folks about 3 to 4 weeks to complete the survey and get back to us, get their feedback back to us. We'll announce the recommended plan in April, most likely early April, and then we'll put out a referendum, and we'll try to wrap up the voting by the middle of May, so we'll give the membership, I would say, 5 to 6 weeks to respond to that referendum, and then at that point, we'll know what we're doing. Back to Frank.
Well, good. Thank you for your time. We'll just really wrap up here as our final slide. Really, I think your club is a great example of, you invest in your business and it grows, right? And you've really made that happen over the last decade, and this builds upon that. There's certainly an intersection here of some must-dos and some opportunities we think to update to the next level. And as you make those changes, certainly in your important areas in your activities, we think that that will certainly pull that off. You also have a club. Everybody has to be their judge of financial conditions and everything else, but to do a lot of that on what seems to be good value for individual members and solid value for the club. You have a club here that will have close to $50 million in assets when you're done in terms of those kinds of investments, and so it has successfully retired debt. It's built up its business. It's built up its value. Pretty good combination in today's changing environment. So we'll be anxious to get your feedback. We will publish the results of that survey, by the way, so those come back directly to us, and we'll publish that information, and you'll see the kind of information that's going back to the committee and board as they make their final thoughts and selections about the program. So we look forward to your participation in that. Certainly encourage your friends to participate. The more the merrier. The more we get folks involved, we're able to create the right plan for the club and be effective in this program. So thank you for your time and attention. We look forward to your questions, comments, and ultimate feedback. So Caleb has a mic. As I said, they're going to pass some mics around just so it can be picked up on the recorder there.
Joe has a mic over there, so we'll kind of alternate sides of the room here.
Ladies first.
Hi, Jim. My first question is on option 3, the reduction on the cost of Pelican's Nest from, I guess it was $320,000 down to $200,000. What is not being? What are you not doing there?
Just the bar, right? It's the bar only instead of that check-in desk and the walkways and that sort of thing at the front. So that's the bar project itself.
And was there any funds allocated to update the tables? And the tables there, I think, need some attention in that area. Was anything included in that?
That's part of our normal reserve plan. We replace those tables. I think they're on a 7 to 10 year lifespan, and I think the tables now are probably is that third year. I mean, that E-Pay just absorbs everything. So the next go-around will probably look at a completely different kind of surface, if I had to guess. But that's a component that's in the normal reserve plan.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank
it's
you.
important to reflect on as you look at that financial plan. What are the other sort of strengths? Is what your club having done the reserve plan, following that reserve plan, keeping a $3 million reserve fund throughout the entire project. Those kinds of things are able. You've got resources to do those things different than real changes. The kind of things we're talking about here, building and going in a different direction. So that kind of regular routine reinvestment is accounted for in that reserve budget. So
Okay,
it's good.
thank
it's great.
you.
Yeah.
2 quick questions. One is, Will the membership be allowed to vote on components of each of these plans? For instance, you have a wine room in there. To some people, that may not be an important thing. Does the survey allow you to address that specific component?
The survey will, yes. I would assume, Caleb can correct me if I'm wrong, eventually there is a referendum on a project, right, that you put together. But in terms of getting, feedback in the front end, the survey is much, and that's what that's meant to do then, is to help you, shape that plan there. You had a second question. There.
The pool, you said the window of opportunity is closing. Can I make the alternative argument saying then don't build there?
You could, if you could find another place to put it, I suppose. But yes, Caleb may have other thoughts, but yeah, it's, if it comes out, if you push that line out, you're in the middle of Seabrook Island Road, there is certainly part of it, or, you'd have to have something completely different as a virgin site or that sort of thing. So, the power of that location, that by, the seaside pool and bar and all that you have, so, but I don't know if there are other, where else would you put it, I suppose?
I don't know if there is another location. I think it is what it is. I think that's pretty much, and it's a great location too, beachside. There aren't very many places that have a pool on the ocean, but.
Yeah, but does that affect future insurance rates and all that kind of stuff? You build in the wrong location,
No.
these lines come back, repeat?
No. It does not affect insurance rates because of the setback line.
The question was if you rebuild there and, they're desiring to move the setback lines, or is it going to cost, more to insure it or do those sorts of things? So there's no expectation of that at this point in time to do that.
I have a microphone, so
Great, go
Can
ahead.
I-
Sure, go ahead.
you should never give me a microphone.
You've
It's
got
just- Yeah, there you go. A little confusing. I think what I see in the plan is that we're doing a lot of moving and rearranging in the island house to accommodate more drinking and dining and what have you, which is all kind of neat and sexy. But if you think about it, the pinch point for excluding the Thanksgiving buffet and Easter buffet, I've never had a problem getting a spot for dinner. So it seems like we have more capacity than demand. And the pinch point is, in my judgment, is the Pelican's Nest, which is gorgeous. So, and if I think, so I'm questioning the expense of doing a lot of moving and rearranging in the island house when we don't seem to be using the full capacity now. And you can't staff it year-round anyhow. For 5 months a year, you shut it down, or at least part of it. So we're going to do all this rearranging and leave half of it empty for 5 months because we don't have enough staff to run the Pelican and the island house. It just doesn't make sense to me. The other point is, and you don't need to respond to that, it's just some feedback. The other point is that we'll have a nice bar pool, or bar at the pool for dinner, for eating and stuff like that. We're going to have the Osprey Cafe, and all that's going to cut into the people going over the Pelicans. So something's got to give there. You got revenue going from Pelicans to these 2 other spots. How's it going to hang on? So I think it seems counterintuitive. You're pulling business from Pelicans out to the pool and to the Osprey Cafe. So it doesn't leave Pelicans in a stable state. And I heard you loud and clear, and I believe everything you say to me, but I'm scratching my head on the point about expanding the bar at the Pelican is not going to intrude on space for eating, because I've gone there many a times, had to wait for a table. So if you're going to double the size of the bar, how's it going to get better?
Right. So a lot there as you're
Done.
talking about that. I'd say, yeah.
Take it away from you, you're done.
Take that mic away from him. Well, yeah, that battery's too strong in that thing. I think part of it, the answer there is to distribute the load. Actually, it is quite busy, and so with the Osprey Cafe and the new bar at the pool, allows you to move people around and actually have more effective in certain in all of those locations, rather than jamming everybody up into one location as you do that. there is more than adequate supply, more than adequate demand in terms of using all of that area, and the Pelican's Nest is not going to get, you're not going to make that facility bigger, the building bigger, or any of those sorts of things. So it's to give people more choice and to maintain an effective level of service in each of those locations, we believe. And again, that's your thoughts, you observe it and everything else, but certainly seasonally, when that is working, that facility is overtaxed. You might serve 600 or 800 covers a day through that facility. We think we can distribute that a little more effectively through the program and lead to more effective service. And I don't know whether comments you might want to make around that as the operator, but.
I'll get this back to you. No, that's pretty much it. I mean, I think when you look at Pelican's Nest, the revenue and the dining volume of Pelican's Nest has been consistently increasing. Our amenity card counts are consistently increasing. We are getting busier each and every year. And I think you can either do one or two things when you have a challenge like that, which is a great challenge to have. You can grow the existing component, which is very difficult to do, or you do what other clubs, what resorts and hotels, even theme parks do. And that is, instead of grow a single amenity or a single operation, you begin to create other options to spread out the traffic, to keep things from being congested. Again, to offer other options. Grab and go here, ice cream here, poolside here. So Captain Sam's has been a tremendous, we really, upgraded the menu at Captain Sam's and bought the equipment and did more with it with frozen drinks and that sort of thing. It did alleviate some degree of the congestion at Pelican's Nest. We did some menu engineering as well, but it was a great service to have poolside. So I think the answer, so we're getting busier, and I think, again, like Frank said, we need to distribute this volume rather than just increase at one isolated location. Question here.
First of all, I just want to say I'm very excited about all this. It all seems like great ideas, and I especially am excited about expanding the pool ocean bar area, because I think that's where you're going to make a ton of revenue. And also I'm excited about expanding the ocean view, because my husband always wants to be watching the golf, and I want to be out watching the sunset. So I don't know. Maybe you can put a little TV out there too, so that we can. Anyway, but my question is, so is it going to be one vote per household, or like, am I going to write my views and fill out the survey, and my husband as well? How does that work?
Well, right now, the survey is going to be one per household, because ultimately, that's how the decision will be made, right? Ultimately, the decision is made by membership. So, now I'm sure if your husband's smart, he's agreeing with your survey and providing, he's providing the correct answers. That's okay. But you could see as if we get dual input there, and then later on we have to ultimately, there has to be a referendum to move forward with it. We're sort of following that protocol. So the instructions will say this input should reflect the views of your household, and that's really where we are and where we'll have to be at some point. So.
Yeah, just to follow up on the beachfront whole project. To an extent, I agree with Dennis, but to look at it a different way is, if Pelican Nest is our #1 food and beverage, why aren't we looking at how to open that restaurant 12 months a year? And we're looking at major projects. Whatever it costs, okay, you're talking about being more casual, you're talking oceanfront venues. To me, that's where we should be spending a lot of our money. I mean, there's a lot of options you could do as far as it's expensive, I've heard people say, but there's certainly, you can do anything for the right price. Maybe that's not feasible or not. And my second part of it is, as far as the beachfront property, we have, I guess for lack of a better term, the wedding area that probably is not used 90% of the time. Has the club looked at any possible usage for that piece of the property with, you walk by it, it's empty.
So the ocean, I'll start with the Ocean Terrace because I can remember that question. The Ocean Terrace, we have moved kids camp into one wing of Ocean Terrace, so it does get quite a good workout during the summer months. We are going to renovate the other wing of Ocean Terrace this year, more of a finishing, I guess, banquet kitchen, for lack of a better term, to support the events on the Ocean Terrace. We've seen an increase in demand for not only member events, but banquet events as well out there, but it's hard for us to meet that demand because the workspace over there isn't great. Doing more with Ocean Terrace, I mean, the beach club is seasonal. It is what it is. I mean, there's not going to be a lot of traffic over there during October through March or April. As well as the setback line, when you look at that, it does currently, it cuts through and kind of runs through a big chunk of that building, I believe. I'm going off memory. The entire brick area there is seaward of the setback line. But again, that's an old building. You've got setback issues. You're going to have some code issues. I'm not really sure what else that we would do with that building. But, it does sit empty. But just because a building sits empty doesn't mean it's not highly important and highly useful. That spot in and of itself is the primary selling point for the vast majority of our weddings. I mean, when Dad takes his little girl over there to look at getting married and she sees that, that's a huge selling point. So, no, we don't have a wedding here every weekend or twice a week or anything like that, but the ones that we do, that's where the deal is often sealed, is in that facility. Your first question?
My first question is, why can we not make Pelican's Nest a 12-month-a-year restaurant?
Well, we have looked on and off over the years at what we can do to, I guess, winterize or enclose Pelican's Nest, which is what obviously you would have to do. We've had a couple contractors look at it. It's easier said than done. It is more of a significant project to enclose that area than you think. It's been, when did we look at that last, John?
I think 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
Yeah, and it's very cumbersome. It's very expensive, and I think to think about opening Pelican's Nest uncovered 12 months a year, I don't think is something that you'd want to do. But to cover it, to enclose it, it could have some detrimental effects to what it's like in the summer.
Yeah, but nowadays there are removable, there's a lot of things where it's 12 months a year where it's enclosed in the wintertime or the cold months, and then in the summertime it's opened up.
Yeah.
There are a lot of options you could do. They're expensive, but again, if we're saying we're going more casual and what future members
Right.
want and what people come down here for, a big part of it's the ocean. And would you rather be sitting up here or sitting across the street, looking at the ocean?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, well,
Good feedback. Let's go.
Just a very quick comment. I'm excited about having an upstairs eating out extension of Bohicket's. I wanted that and I know a lot of people that wanted that in the first iteration. And that's ideal. And I think, depending on if you're going to have it open often enough, that you'll get a lot more dining from people coming off the golf course or people not wanting to deal with the crowds over at the pool in the summertime.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
Just a quick question.
Promise,
You mentioned that the changes to the Pelican's Nest will still have the same number of dining tables. What about for the bigger bar upstairs? Do we lose dining tables?
I don't have the count off the top of my head, but my sense is no. We're actually doubling the number of seats at the bar. So you're essentially picking up that row
My
of.
question is dining tables, not bar seats.
It changes.
Yeah.
It changes. That's a good question. It's a good question, Ken. It's hard to answer because it changes. It becomes something different than it is today. Bohicket's now it's a restaurant with a bar. This new version would become much more of a pub scene, larger bar, tall tables, maybe even a separate bar-like menu, 5 or 6 items. I don't want to get too granular, but this is just kind of the vision and the concept that we've got swirling around in our heads right now. So the number of seats may decrease a little bit, but as it kind of blends or bleeds into the living room area and into Palmetto, I think the seating capacity is certainly at least the same. It's no smaller. It has become something very different.
Okay, a
contrary to what the previous question remark was, we do run into times when we can't get a convenient time to dine.
Right.
And I hate to see us lose dining tables because, frankly, I'm not sure my liver can stand more opportunities to drink, but I'll still eat.
Well, I think-
I have a question or comment. I would suggest that you really need a fourth option. And what I'm referring to, and first I have a question about it. It would seem to me that that balcony, I would ask you, of that $2.9 million for the Island House changes, how much of that is building that balcony?
Yeah, can answer that. Go ahead. Go over your thoughts. I'll get you that number in a second.
Well, the thought is that I would suggest you have a fourth option where the changes to the Island House, everything else can be done internally. I mean, I would think adding a construction component to that would be a significant addition to the cost of doing Island House changes. And I would suggest that you break that out as a separate component of, as an option, rearranging chairs and you know, the flow, that's all great, and that I would think you could do relatively low cost and changing a bar and so forth. You start constructing an addition to the building and so forth, I would think add a, and I think, I don't want to disagree with Banner, but it's an option or choice. To me, I'm sorry, Banner, but to me, the balcony is a frill, nice to have in a perfect world, but easily do without. The other changes actually would affect the way we dine and eat. And another comment about the changes you're talking about, how would that affect some of the popular events we do in Bohica, like Trivia Night and so forth, where all the tables are taken and all the bar is filled? Now you've got separate areas and things like that. And also what we use the vote room is very often used for small group functions, luncheons, small dinners. You start taking away that space as a wine, that takes away that option. So I think there are several issues which need to be thought through more carefully.
Sure. And I don't know if I can recap all the several, but I think that, well, what we do know, the estimate for the outdoor deck, $600,000. And that's been provided by the contractor who built this building. So you know, it's between our team and the contractor who built the building. Thought that was a good number, appropriate number to do it for that area. The idea of I forget where you were going with the second point there of.
Well, I mean, the other one was have a fourth option.
Oh, gotcha. So fourth option. These options are not. There's. I don't know if it's an infinite number of options, but there are many, many options within a plan of this size and scope and affecting all of these areas. So we present these as examples. There's certainly hybrids that could come out of this solution that, as you say, the outdoor dining, if people don't want, you know, those kinds of things. So you should look at those as I think they set up some parameters of what would be available, but the members weighing in on this is important to me or that not important to me, whatever, you're able to then there could be a fifth option, a sixth option, whatever is kind of morphed out of that.
Make these choices, I think you need to provide the costs, not just one big cost for doing something like the Island House, but separate costs for components of it.
I have no problem with that. There's certain areas you can do that and certain that you can't. Maybe the deck is certainly one of them. I would stress that the notion of Bohickets, Palmetto, those work as a concept. You know, that's, you know, one without the other, having a bigger pub without making Palmetto a more desirable room to go into, I think probably undermines the concept and doesn't allow it to come through. DeVoe room was another point that you made, and the idea is that would still remain a flex space. That would be a place you could certainly have luncheons in there. You could have a private dinner in there. I think that's scripted and kind of used on spotlight events for whatever you're looking to do there. It's kind of the theme and the decor, but certainly bringing a little bit more into on the member side. And for those who may be concerned that if Palmetto is more casual, they don't feel that they have an upscale option that they like, it can fill that bill too. So, but it is meant to be multi-purpose.
I wanted to ask one question. When you were looking at the Island House, did you examine how much sunset dining there actually is? Right now, I only believe you can look at it through the terrace, and where there would be actual dinner service. And if you could look at the DeVoe room as a sunset dining area and open it up, maybe that would be a way to offset and make the Island House more attractive in the summer.
I second that.
Yes.
I wanted a dovetail on the earlier question on the pool. I'm glad we're doing this. The pool is a major importance to us, to the financial, I think, viability of the club long term. And I'm glad to see us taking care of the somewhat of a storm protection for the kids' pool, which is lower. But unfortunately, it seems like we're in an era of rising ocean levels. And potentially, I think storms in the future can bring us maybe more water, more mud, more sand problems here. And given the time constraints we have for changes at this point to the pool area, I was wondering is there feasibility we can do to look at enhanced seawall protection or other storm protection for both the pool and the Pelican's Nest areas that we won't be able to do in the future if we need to do that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so when you say seawall, you mean the actual riprap with the boulders?
I'm going to leave that for experts.
Okay.
I'm just thinking, is there anything we can do different than the structure today that would enhance our protection long term?
Well, I mean, one of the things that we are doing as part of this process or program, as you mentioned, is that there is going to be somewhat of a retaining wall that's going to kind of blend into a walkway of the kids' pool, since that's probably 16 inches, 18 inches lower than the large pool. Additional storm protection. Right now, I mean, we've had 3 named storms, and in all 3, it's been the same result. That is, a large pool is crystal clear and blue the next day, and the small pool is a complete disaster with a foot or more of sand and lots of debris, and the water looks terrible. So just based upon that experience, I think that the retaining wall to protect the kids' pool, I think, is important. I don't know what we would do. We haven't really gone down that road as far as any additional retaining wall in this pool area to protect the large pool.
I'm just worried that in
Yeah.
15 years, storms could be worse. And now's the time for
Yeah.
us to do any change.
Right.
That's all.
Okay.
Just a comment and a question, if you could help me with this a little bit. When I hear all this, I think about, what's in it for me as a member and a homeowner, and probably everybody else does too. And so I think about the value of my house. I think about the value and I think about competing with Kiowa. I think about competing with the Kiowa River Estates that's coming online, and that's important because we are competing with them. And I also think about all the projects you have, and I support most of them, but I don't know what the numbers are to say, we put money into something that's going to lose dollars. This is a business. And, I guess you're an expert, so I guess, back on your experience in 2000 developments, what do you see as the net impact of these types of investments? Because I think that's an important question. As an example, like earlier, putting a bar at the pool, I'm guessing you make a ton of money selling booze, right? And that's a good thing. Do you have anything you could show us to say, greater investment in a pool bar can generate this kind of revenue, because those are, well, a lot of renters come in and they just, good for them, right? As long as they're paying me money or the club money, I'm pretty happy. But if we're investing in something that's going to be dead and not going to make money long term, then the last piece of it is we could have the most beautiful restaurant space here on the island possible, but the food's not good. It ain't going to make any difference, in my opinion. So, what are we doing about I've been in really ugly buildings and ugly restaurants that have great food and they're packed, and I've been in really nice places that the food's not so good.
Sure.
So what do we do to make sure, the food's as good as the environment we're being served in?
I'll let Caleb answer that. I know the club is involved in a comprehensive relook at the food and beverage program, making much more use of seasonal workers and all of those kinds of things, which again are kind of the trends in the industry to find folks to do that. And you're right, the two key variables within utilization of any club dining room is food quality, and number two is food consistency, right? Clubs have this special burden because people come back all the time, right? If you go to whatever, Joe's Crab Shack 4 times a year, you're not worried about consistency. You eat here 4 times a week and you have a favorite item, you want to see it, So clubs have a lot to deal with in that regard and look at doing that. You get substantial revenue contribution here from your guest. I think it's about 53% of the operating budget, something like that, so that's all nice, and that's a real contributor here, but, the financial plan's driven on dues. That's what really, the whole dollar dues is what does it. Bar drinking is kind of pretty high up on the list there. Restaurants aren't, and those sorts of things is doing it. But, so the key is making our club attractive and bringing in, sort of replacement members, if you will. The last case study we did, 350 clubs, spending on average $5,000 per member, no matter how they financed it, whether they borrowed it or assessed everybody and those sorts of things. 93% of those clubs had an equal or greater number of members a year later. 58% of those clubs had more members with an average increase of 10% more in terms of members. So those are real dollars. Those are a real impact signifying the sustainability of the club and the attractiveness of investing into the amenity. Average increase of 25% in food and beverage revenue in each of those. So again, this is a high-end hospitality environment. So the look and the feel is real important, and those trends do change. It's amazing just over the last decade as to whether it's outdoor or whether it's more casual or those sorts of, they're all, sort of part of the mix. But the data suggests that, in investing in refurbishments, particularly in your hospitality environment, are really drivers of new member attraction and really help you replace those who normally leave us for uncontrollable reasons of death and infirmity and those kinds of things. And it's really about that new attraction, and investments have proven to be a good way to do that. Caleb may make some comments on food and beverage quality and your plan there.
Sure, I would love to. It's an ongoing challenge with all operations. Food and beverage is something that's very close, very intimate. And like Frank said, I mean, if you come here 100 times a year, which is fairly frequent, if you have 5 bad experiences, we're batting 95%, but you're going to wear us out over those 5 bad experiences as opposed to you go somewhere else 100 times a year. It's a huge challenge in clubs and food and beverage. Our data tells us that we're doing a good job. Our numbers, our sales tell us that we're doing a good job. Our member dining is increasing. Our visitor dining is increasing. But we're always looking at ways to train our staff better. Always looking at the best products. Obviously balancing costs and budgets. So we certainly do, work hard every day to consistently improve on what we did yesterday. And I think Dick has a microphone.
Yeah. I'd like to just comment on what you just said. Is this thing on? Yeah.
Yep.
I think you have perhaps a little rose-colored glasses with regard to how the food quality is, and I don't think that's the ideal reaction. I think we can do a lot better, and should. So, however, that's not what I wanted to say. What I wanted to say was, I'm very positive about this whole plan. I think it looks great. Was it 10 years ago that we did the Horizon Plan? There was a lot of pushback at that time. People didn't want to spend that money. People didn't want to do all of it. Doing all of it was the most effective way, the most cost-effective way. And frankly, this club would not be anything like it is now if we hadn't done the Horizon Plan. I mean, many of the new members would never have joined this club. As the gentleman pointed out before, we've got competition. I heartily endorse doing the works. We need to be world class, and we are world class now, and let's keep moving in that direction. I don't find the costs are that extensive. This is the cost of being in a world class facility.
Can I just, I agree with what you said. And I just want to give a shout out to, I think all the bartenders are amazing. Not that we're big drinkers, we just eat at the bar, watch the golf. But they're great. But one thing, a couple of times when we were eating, I had to ask the waiter, can you please put on the music? My dad was in radio, and he said, if you walk into a room and something's wrong and you don't know what it is, it's the music is wrong. But it even has to be on. Like, so that should be someone's job, make sure music's on.
Oh, it's all, yeah, no, it's an integrated concept. That's what, even what I meant earlier about the, clubs are actually, changing their tune in a way, no pun intended. They almost reveled in their stuffiness and formality and all of those sorts of things. And people are realizing today your decision to eat at the club is not the way you eat at this club or another club. It's the way you eat at this club or a fun, cool restaurant that's going and something's happening there, And so there's really a new focus going on, whether it's operational quality. But we used to call it, people talked about country club food as if, that this was a whole separate category that we were satisfied with, and it's good food. People want, again, the same thing they're getting. So those demands are up on people like Caleb and Joe and such as they try and deliver that. But thinking about it all working together, that's why as we look at that second floor, the flow of those spaces, being invited into all those areas, having a sense of energy and excitement in each of those rooms versus a dead room and a lively, overcrowded space. All that's part of that vision. It has to be executed. You got, day in, day out, somebody's got to hit the checklist and make sure that the radio is on or whatever. But it's all part of trying to modernize dining in the club today. People like to dispute it and they like to beat up on the club dining. There is the correlation between your overall satisfaction with a club and your satisfaction with the restaurant is nearly 1-to-1. We can talk about golf and pools and all those sorts of things, but every great conversation happens around a meal. So getting that right physically, executing on that operationally are critical importance across the industry. And if we invest $2 million in it, people are going to say, well, the bar just went higher, right? And so that's going to be there, and that's going to be what the task is going to have to live up to, and the space has to have that presentation to it. Yes, sir.
I had a question about the dues. I think when you're presenting your options, you're sort of leading the audience, because when you talk about the prospective members ask about the debt, they also ask about the dues. So by increasing the dues, there's a sort of countervailing factor. The other question I had, you mentioned the increase in dues from the see the ability to staff all these venues and impact on operational costs that some of these changes do? Or that even been considered or thought about?
Well, the club is working with, and Caleb will talk more about it, with your J1 visas, your H2B visas, where the allocation has been doubled this year. Those are certainly, the use of seasonal and temporary workers is again increasing across the industry as you do that. There's all sorts of bogeymen out there. There's all sorts of reasons to say why we can't do it. We have to get it done, you know, and you just have to deliver on that, find those people, and clubs again are getting more innovative about where they find those folks and thinking about their operation. So there's challenges in each one of those categories will have to be overcome, and I know your use of the temporary workers or the seasonal workers is certainly a big piece of that, and that's happening across the industry as people really, it's all, you know, hard to find people taking the jobs and everything else, and these folks are filling them. So we've got to look at those and again compete for our sense of the market share and each piece of that. So I don't know what else you're operationally doing.
Yeah, well, we're past the 11:30 hour now, but to address Jerry's question, it's a good question. When you look at each component, there's not a significant staffing increase. It's simply redesign of the physical space as it is, as pertains to evolving member use. You change the bar at Pelican's Nest, it doesn't mean all of a sudden there's a new army of people that we need to carry, but that is a significant operational change. We have the bartenders to put 3 bartenders back there, or 3 plus a bar runner, but we can't physically do it as the bar exists today because it's too small. Bo Hickett's Island House changes. You know, I can't foresee there being a significant increase in staff there at all. It's simply a change in how we work, and it's a change in how the members use that property. The pool, no change in staff with the pool, and of course Ocean Winds Master Plan, there's no changes there. But that's a good question. We have thought about it. We do think about it. We don't see any big surge of staffing that would need to take place if we were to complete these projects. With that being said, I want to thank Frank Vane. We'll button this up. Frank, thank you very much for your time. Thank you to all of you for attending, spending your morning with us, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.